Could this be the best Renault Clio to date? Personally, I believe this could be the best hatchback of the year. With an interior like this car's going places. The Renault Clio. Making its debut in 1990 with this rather 90s looking box car, which has gone on to become the best selling French car of all time. The Clio is a staplement in the car industry, I'm sure we're all aware, and has had quite the transformation over the decades. And despite the Clio already being one of the most successful cars out there, something tells me that the new Clio might just bring even more success. And why is that? It's just a Clio at the end of the day, right? We already know what to expect. Well, that's where you're wrong. You see, the 2023 Renault Clio E-Tech Hybrid, which is now being called, is the most advanced Clio to date. I mean, it does seem pretty obvious since it's the newest release. However, it's had quite a transformation in its looks, probably the biggest in many decades. And now, the Clio is a full hybrid. But what has been another major change to the Renault Clio is the new trim level. Now, over the years, we have seen the sports style trim level in the Renault Clio called RS line. However, the new trim level, labelled Esprit Alpine, might just be Renault's best work to date. Now, we saw the new trim from Renault, the Esprit Alpine, have its world premiere in the all-new Renault Austral, and personally, I think it's one of the best trim levels out there. And thankfully, the Clio is also a recipient of it. Now, you're probably asking, what is Esprit Alpine? Well, the trim implements Alpine branding, which is of course owned by Renault, and incorporates logo, name branding on the door sills, the signature Alpine blue on the seatbelts, and all over the exterior of the car. You also get a nice French logo, just in case you forgot where Renault was from. But don't be making any French car jokes, because this is a good piece of kit. Yes, the new Renault Clio may have had a new trim, but what else does the 2023 version actually provide? When we have a look at the overall style and shape of this car, first let's talk about the shape, and it does look classic Renault Clio. It kind of looks like the previous generation. However, one big massive change is this new front grille. Now, what's interesting about the front design of this car is sort of incorporates Renault signatures, but also other French car signatures. Let's go to the Renault ones. You've got this bar along the front, which we see across the full E-Tech range, which is Renault's hybrid range. You also get the new style Renault emblem, very bold in the front, as seen on the previous Clio. Now, about that French car resemblance, the way the lights are shaped, especially with this almost claw-like sort of signature styling, and also this front grille, kind of looks a bit of a French car. And I'm not going to name names, because I don't want to name drop. However, I think you know which car I'm insinuating to. The Alpine trim also comes with brand new, fresh looking 17-inch alloy wheels. That little blue bit in the centre, the way the whole design is, it's very striking for a Renault, don't you think? It almost puts them to a new level. Now, the base tier and mid tier have 16-inch alloy wheels. They have different designs, and personally, the Alpine ones obviously are going to be the best looking. It almost gives it a bit of hot hatch look, but is it hot hatch in nature? Well, you'd be glad to know that the new Renault Clio has the same powertrain across all trim levels, which are three by the way, called Evolution, Techno and Esprit Alpine, which may seem alright at first. But when you're driving, I do feel like more could have been done. Maybe have the top spec, the Esprit Alpine, it sort of looks like a hot hatch, both for the interior and the exterior design. And with it being the sport trim, I just wish more was done. Perhaps add a turbo in, just think they may have missed a trick there. So yes, the top spec Esprit Alpine being the sport trim doesn't come with that heightened performance. That would have been a nice touch, but you do get some nice perks with the top spec, so you won't be wasting any money. You do get adaptive cruise control with stop and go, which makes that motorway driving much easier, means that when you're stuck in traffic, it's a pleasant drive, nonetheless. You also get blind spot monitoring and reversing cameras. The Clio isn't known to be a supercar, so this car comes with a 0 to 60 time of 9.3 seconds, which seems alright, not the fastest, not the slowest. And it seems okay for the fact that all trim levels have the same engine. The Clio over the years, especially that second and third generation models, really became the face of boy racers or sporty super minis. It seems it's lost its way that bit, which is a shame, but time moves on and so does the car industry. Just would have been good if this was a bit more zooped up, don't you think? And not having that performance to match its hot hatch looks does mean that Clio is pretty cheap to run. This hybrid powertrain can travel up to 550 miles on a full tank with the help of that 1.6 litre engine and the two electric motors, and can actually go upwards of 67.3 miles per gallon. So the Clio is saving you the cash. But I just think this car could have become a market-leading hot hatch. Now, a lot of you might laugh at that, a Clio being a market-leading hot hatch. However, if you look at previous Clios gone by, and I just think they've missed a trick with this car, having that Alpine branding on the exterior and interior of this car, if we have a look at the Alpine brand as a whole, it is true racing identity. I just think if these had a performance engine, them double exhaust that has them nice pop sounds, this could have been a really good hot hatch. So then the drive might not blow your socks off, it is a Clio at the end of the day. But that new hybrid system provides comfort and ease on your commute. Excellent handling, and despite not looking like a McLaren on paper, it isn't sluggish in the slightest. And a non-sluggish drive is also benefited by the amount of space in the back of this car. Now, the Clio hasn't been a renowned spacious car out on the roads. It is a small hatchback at the end of the day, but it's actually a decent amount of legroom. It comes with 16.5 centimetres of legroom, which is actually one of the biggest Clios to date. Which, yes, might not sound like a lot, but I reckon this could easily fit 3 children, or probably 3 me-sized adults, which isn't exactly massive, but there's still a decent amount of legroom. You have decent storage in the back of the seats. You have a little storage compartment here. Come to design, and it has that same style seating as the front. You have them Alpine blue stitches on the seat belts. Overall, it's a good car. It's not exactly massively roomy, but it would be comfy for a journey. And when it comes to the boot capacity, well, like the back, the Clio isn't blessed with a huge amount of space. The new Clio comes with 301 litres of boot capacity, which is pretty similar than previous generations gone by. It's not the right amount of boot space, isn't massive at the end of the day. I won't necessarily volunteer for the family airport run. However, you could easily do a week's worth of shopping. You could do, say, a night away. But save this at home if you're going on the long road trip, is all I'd say. Coming to the design of the back, and that sort of sport essence is really shown with this new trim, with that new blacked out Clio branding, the blacked out Renault logo, and also that little E-Tech hybrid emblem. You also get that grey bumper which matches the one at the front, as seen across the E-Tech range. A little bit of spoiler here, I feel like because this is a sport model, I feel like this could have been accentuated a bit more, have a little lip that goes up, that would have been nice. You have the blacked out shark fin antenna, does give it that sporty edge. Overall, nothing really much has changed in the back of the Clio from the previous generation. The front is a completely new car. This seems pretty familiar. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video about how this car is the most advanced Clio to date. It's pretty obvious, it's the new release, you'd expect that. But that advancement comes from the interior. Now, the Esprit Alpine trim comes with a 10-inch digital cluster and also 9.3-inch infotainment screen. Now, the previous trims come with a slightly smaller digital cluster and slightly smaller infotainment screen, but they do all come with built-in navigation and smartphone connectivity as standard. The front also comes with nice ambient lighting around the center console. You also get wireless charging pad, and the top spec comes with heated seats and heated steering wheel. The only thing that's not advanced in the new Clio, which I really wish they changed, but it's seen across the Renault thing, so I think I'm going to stick with it for a few years, is the little toggle behind here for your controls and also your volumes. It's just so awkward. You have a lot of sticks going on around here. Just have it on the steering wheel, be much easier. Although saying that, it means that your adaptive cruise control settings are all within quite easy reach. Now, I've come to the design of the interior. We mentioned it before by the Alpine trim, but one thing I didn't mention was the French flag stitching on the steering wheel. Little signatures like that really make this car stand out. The attention to detail in this trim, it's exceptional. It's brilliant work, Renault. 3 things I really like about the new 2023 Renault Clio E-Tech Hybrid. The first being the climate controls. Now, we've seen this on the previous Clio. However, these type of climate controls, the fact you have a screen and also its own personal dials, it's not an infotainment screen like many cars today, so it's easy on your commute and also just really easy to use. The second being design of the Esprit Alpine wheels. They're striking, they're unique. Gives it that hot hatch resemblance, although this isn't technically classed as a hot hatch, but that makes it look like it is. And that little blue emblem around that matches the body paint. Some good alloys there. The third being the fact that the infotainment screen is that portrait orientation. It just seems like it's so much bigger, 9.3 inches. It's sort of your mid to high sizes across the car industry. Many now are opting for the 10.25 inch, so it could be slightly small, but it just seems so much bigger being portrait and just feels a bit unique. So then, 3 things I'm not the biggest fan of about the new 2023 Renault Clio. The first being the fact that the rear seat doesn't have a USB charger anywhere in sight. I mean, if it's hidden under the seat, then fair enough, but I don't think it is. I've had a good look around. Modern day car doesn't have a charger in the back. If you've got 3 kids with phone styles, you're going to have a terrible car journey. And number 2, because I am here, is the fact that the middle seat doesn't have that nice blue stitching like the other seats, and it's also slightly different design. These feel a lot more high quality. This feels like it's taken out of any other car on the market and just plonked in at last resort. The third being the fact that yes, this is a sporty looking car, and I know it is hybrid, but there's no exhaust in sight. From the back, it almost looks like an EV. It would be nice. I know it doesn't have them big exhaust, but just a little one that had a nice chrome finish will just add to the whole sporty feel of this car. There's not an exhaust in sight, unless it's all the way on the rear. Oh, it's a little tiny one there. Probably about, if I was an exhaust, that would be it. So then, there you have it, the new 2023 Renault Clio. And yes, this is the top spec of Esprit Alpine, which I think is probably Renault's finest work to date. We've seen a new Renault Austro, and now we get it in the classic Renault Clio. Yes, this is the top spec, however, the mid and bottom spec does have that same new style grille and the shape of the lights. So if you don't want to opt for this and you're not necessarily found the Alpine branding, then you're still going to get an overall good looking car, probably the biggest transformation that Clio has seen probably from the first to the second generation. And if you're interested in this car, then contact one of our 4 Holcroft Renault dealerships. All details for these can be found on the Holcroft website.